applauding me. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, America.
I hear the.
Thank you at your home at your little computers. Yeah, go ahead and applaud at home. I don't care. Yeah, I could do like 20 minutes like Conan.
Yeah! The host is moving! Look at the host move!
To you, Conan, and that bullshit 20 minutes every night.
It's away with it, too.
Yeah.
So, but I don't hate you, Conan, and tonight's topic is the culture of hate. And at first I thought about this because I thought the culture of hate was really that we raise our kids up to be homophobes, to be Arabophobes, people who hate Jews, people who hate people who earn minimum wage. But as I went on the internet, I realized the culture of hate is a term adopted by the right wing to talk about Islamo-terrorism. And what we have is we have a lot of people living in tents talking about how bad we are. And I don't think that's a big threat. We have little religious fanatic schools in Saudi Arabia and Jordan and places where some whack jobs who hate us talk about how we're fucking up the world, which we are. And so my feeling about the culture of hate, I think it's the culture of hate when you have a Republican Party that every time they have a fear that, hey, you know what, we're not doing that well in the polls, we got to bring up this anti-gay marriage amendment. Because we got to get you to hate some people so you can come on out and vote for us.
That's right. What's on the menu?
Yeah, exactly. What else are they going to hate? And in the Los Angeles Times today, the big lead story is the Republicans plan on using this war on terrorism as their ticket to be reelected. But what I would say to America is, you know what? We haven't had a minimum wage increase in 9 years.
Yeah.
And the last terrorism attack was 5 years, 6 years ago, 5 years ago now.
Right.
How about we do something about the minimum wage before we do something about terrorism? We're doing enough.
Right.
We haven't been attacked. Few people who got killed. It's sad. But now, but what the Republicans want to run on is, we've got to kill them over there so they're not fighting us over here. Mm-hmm. These guys don't even have airplanes. And we're worried about fighting them over here.
Can't we just not lend them our planes?
I'm supposed to have my phone wires tapped because some guy hates us in Saudi Arabia.
What?
Right. Right, the NSA.
Yeah. And I hate that.
Me too.
So I have found that I am starting to hate the United States. As a great 4th of July topic, hate the United States, yes or no. But I went to the fireworks last night. And it was all this, they play a tape, and I'm proud to be an American, where at least I can have my wires tapped. No, they don't do, where I can be free, and it rings hollow under this administration. It rings like, Jesus is coming tomorrow kind of stuff. Where after you've lived, being told that for 30 years and given 10% of your income, and you go, come on, Jesus, already.
Yeah.
But, and so...
Superman came back this weekend.
He's returned. And he's pissed.
Yeah, it was a while, but at least Superman.
But, all this freedom is all hyperbole now. It's all become like... You know what? We don't have to give you freedom. What we have to do is give you some good songs, some fireworks. We have to tell you how free you are. And then we have to follow you to the places where you might be demonstrating against us.
That's right.
Find out who's there, snap pictures, check on their tax situation.
That's right.
And you know, here's my deal. You know, United Nations, I appeal to you. I want you to draft some kind of resolution that is timed for what happened to the Soviet Union to happen to the United States. Divide up. It's a monopoly. It's the monopoly of power, and a few people who are in control of the hate are making things bad for the rest of the world. And I don't know how many hurricanes have to hit us, or how many terrorists have to, or what has to happen to wake Americans up that, you know what, you can't go out and destroy the world and destroy diplomacy and destroy truth and just put a Madison Avenue label of freedom on what you're doing. And, I'm going to wrap up with this. This was the most emailed story from the Los Angeles Times today is Bush guilty of war crimes? And because of the Supreme Court ruling this last week where they said what he's doing with the trials in Guantanamo violates international treaties and violates American laws and our system of government because he did not consult with Congress, but also they invoked Article 13 of the Article 3 of the Geneva Convention, which, it was designed to protect non-combatants during times of war. And so when you torture a non-combatant, it doesn't matter whether their government has a treaty with you or signed on with Geneva or not. What matters is that's a human being who is powerless over the amount of pain you can inflict on him. And either you're human or you're not human. And so to paint these people as subhuman and the intolerance, that is a culture of hate, and that's all I have to say. So, a lot of laughs there, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just can't show you that.
That was real Andy Kaufman, man.
All right, well, we're going to have a lot of fun. We're here to discuss a culture of hate, and my good friend, public speaker, writer, radio personality, Dylan Brody.
And just for the record, Bill, I spoke to the UN, and in fact, you do appeal to them. I got the topic, and I had a lot of thoughts on how to approach this whole thing. First of all, I thought about talking about the hateful town in which I grew up. I grew up in a small town in upstate New York called Schuylerville, New York. We moved there when I was about 4 years old. We drove overnight to move into this town. And as young as I was able to read the sign as we drove in that said, "Welcome to Schuylerville, population 984. And in a Norman Rockwell moment that afternoon, the old gray-haired mayor himself drove out to the sign with a bucket o' paint to amend it to say, "and some Jews." And for years, I had a recurring nightmare where I was chased through the woods outside Schuylerville by a group of angry Christians intent on doing me harm, which I attribute to a particular incident when I was 7, when I was chased through the woods outside Schuylerville by this group of angry Christians intent on doing me harm. And I thought about maybe using my time tonight to talk about my grandmother who spent a few years in a camp in Germany playing liar's poker every day going, pair of threes, 3 4s. Yeah, it's sad because, you can't bluff when it's the same numbers every day.
3 looks like an 8.
And I thought about using the time to talk about homophobia, which, hits close to home for me because my sister is gay. I love her like a brother. And when I can, I like to speak. But I decided instead to tell a particular story. Several years ago for Thanksgiving, my wife and I went to Georgia to visit her family, which was nerve-wracking for me. Her father is a Southern Baptist evangelical minister, the scary kind who actually believes the shit, not the kind that's in it for the money. And the 2 weeks before our wedding, he had sent her a long letter advising her not to marry me because I am a Jew, and therefore we would not be on equal footing and couldn't spend eternity together in heaven, as though till death do us part wasn't a long enough, span of time. So we were going to Georgia to visit her family for Thanksgiving. And they started right off by mocking the way I pronounced the name of their town. I would say Lafayette, and apparently it's pronounced Lafayette. 2 syllables, always with a question mark at the end. We don't live in Lafayette, we live in Lafayette. Don't ask me, I'm just reading the sign, you know. So already uncomfortable. And on the big Thanksgiving get-together day, our niece greeted me in a Confederate flag T-shirt that said, "It's a Southern thing with an A. Y'all wouldn't understand." And I immediately went into this sort of inward spiral and felt shame all day for, protecting the tranquility in this house full of in-laws, instead of confronting her and saying, "No, I do understand bigotry, and I'm offended by it regardless of geographical location." Didn't say any of that, and then none of her family understood my Thanksgiving Day joke. We were all sitting around, and I said that we should take a moment to remember that first Thanksgiving, and we should all be thankful that everybody ignored the one wise old Native American woman who kept saying, "Don't feed them. If you feed them, they'll never leave." And her family did not laugh. They just stared at me with confusion and contempt, and I suspect a little bit of suspicion and worry, and began to wonder if perhaps it was an indication that they shouldn't feed me. The day after Thanksgiving, we'd booked 3 days at the hotel. We were flying out on Sunday. And the day after the big Thanksgiving dinner, her father decided that as a gesture of hospitality and to welcome me and show that he was not holding it against me that I'm going to hell, he decided it would be good to invite me to the swap meet. We were going to drive from their home, I swear to God, their home on Joyal Road. We were going to drive into Chickamauga, Georgia, to the big swap meet. And in fairness to the man, it was a generous thought. He knows that I collect swords, and he knows there's a guy with a booth who sells swords at the swap meet, so he knew he was dealing with, and I enjoyed seeing the swords and talking to the guy. And then my sister-in-law, before we got down to sort of regular free-form browsing, wanted to stop in a particular booth where she knew she could pick up T-shirts for her daughter, the Confederate flag ones that she likes so much. So I went with my wife and my sister-in-law and my father-in-law into the booth, where they stood around looking at the hanging T-shirts with airbrushed, wide-eyed coon dogs painted onto Confederate flag backgrounds, and over the slogan, "It's not hate, it's heritage," it's one thing not to realize that it's about hatred. It's another thing to be confronted with the fact that it's hatred and go, "Yeah, fuck you, I'm doing it anyway." And while they're looking at this, I turn to my right, and there's this huge tabletop display of sew-on patches, not just Confederate flags, but also SS symbols and swastikas and the white Aryan nation thing and all the Ku Klux Klan symbols there. And as I'm trying frantically to silently signal my wife as to what I'm noticing over here, a pudgy little bald man comes over and stands next to me and picks out a swastika, traditional black on red circle, and checks it out, and then turns to me. And I managed a non-committal nod and maybe a weak smile, I don't know. I backed out of the booth and sweated until my wife finished and came out. And my wife, whom I adore, I told her afterwards what had happened, and she said, "Your answer clearly should have been, as a Jew." I go with the sleeve. and then I spent the remainder of the time, wandering around the swap meet, hyper aware of who might be walking behind me, and irrationally wondering if my circumcision was visible.
Wow.
And then, the following morning,
I can only hope.
we got
It's on the meter.
we got up and we got on the plane, and the moment I sat down on the plane and reclined my seat, I was on my way home, and I just fell into a deep, relieved sleep, and I had this bizarre dream in which I was being chased through a casino by a group of big-eyed coon dogs. And then we sat down to play poker with a tarot deck. But the only way I was going to be allowed to play the full house was if I kept the hangman. That's my time.
Yeah.
Hey.
Dylan Brody.
All right.
That's. A lot of people are prejudiced against the South.
Prejudice against the prejudice.
Well, I mean, I went to college and grad school in Tennessee, and yeah, there's a lot of prejudiced people, but you know what? There's a lot of good people, and I took my wife back there, and my wife was raised here in California, and she thought everyone we were going to meet was going to hate Jews and blacks and be married to their cousin. I mean, it was just and want to molest some child nearby. But it's not that way, or they really concealed it when I lived there. One of the things. We have a new person on the program.
Okay.
Do you feel like you want to say
Well,
something, Maurice? Yeah. Maurice Davis, writer, performer.
On the subject of hate, I'm an African American, Native American Indian in America. Okay, that's my time. I mean, seriously, what else is there? I mean, you could go on for days, with how ingrained hate as an entity is in the natural workings of this culture. Because how can you say you're leaving these people over here who are hating you so much, you've got to leave this land to take your monkey ass over to another land and impose the same shit, if not worse, in the name of getting away from hate. You know what I'm saying? I have to say, this anecdote, I don't know why it popped into my mind, but I was at a friend's house, and I guess their family were, the Mayflower or somebody family, something Mayflower dealio. They came over with the Mayflower, and they were talking about homesteading and yada, 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 about how grandma and great-grandma, are talking about their experiences and their great-great-grandparents' experiences with the covered wagons and the pain and the suffering and the this and the that. And I'm listening, and people are getting teary-eyed around the table. Black Indian. Does anyone notice I'm here? I mean, really, I finally I couldn't hold it any longer, and I just said, what territory was that? And every head turned to me, and I said, oh, that was in Kansas, but what territory was that? They were so far removed from what I might as well have been speaking Swahili. They had no idea what I was talking about. And it turns out that the area they were talking about was of the nation of part of my family, which is the Pawnee Nation, right there in Nebraska. So that kind of removal, I think so many things come from hatred. There's so many offshoots from hatred that allow us to be this kind of blindered society and not deal with things because it's so easy to dehumanize a person. But where does that dehumanizing come from? It has to come from a place of not love, so it must be the other side. Even though it may not seem as harsh you know, when you're over in another land killing people who are a threat. But there's got to be something that allows you to kill that person. That person looks just like you and your family and actually friends you like. It's a little harder to put a bayonet in their throat. So where does that separation come from? That I'm fascinated with in our culture here. I'm fascinated with that because I deal with it every day of my life. People think we're exaggerating. Oh my God, black people are so sensitive. Walking on eggshells. Oh, and don't think I haven't pulled the angry black man card. When I have pulled that, but only because of the culture. I can get away with it. Or there would be nothing to get away with. But something in this culture that has always fascinated me has been the level of pure, unadulterated hatred. When I was a kid the first time, I really realized that growing up in the San Joaquin Valley, cross burnings every summer, you know, it was just like, 4th of July already? No? It was every summer down at the river.
Wow.
Yeah, there would be a cross burning. And some friends of mine, of the family actually, a black and white couple, they adopted a couple of kids. One of their kid was a black Korean kid they adopted. Kept finding kids' toys broken all the time. You know, toys broken, toys missing, toys broken, toys missing. Fast forward, and there's an article in the paper, some Grand Poobah clan, grand wizard dragon guy is standing there proud on the cover of the newspaper, you know, in his house with all of his clan stuff, with all his hood on and everything, and come to find out it's the neighbor. So the kids, next door. Wow. We're jacking with the kids stuff next door. That was my first experience in grammar school. Knowing people who are that close to a dealio like that.
Oh.
You know.
No. Excuse me, Mr. Grand Poobah?
How about that chafing dish?
No kidding. And don't think I haven't, you know, been in a restaurant with one of my rather flamboyant friends and, you know, sit down at the counter thinking we're going to get served. And suddenly, you know, wait, take a look at where you're at. It's like, oh, we're not going to get served in here. The kind of service we're going to get in here, it's got nothing to do with food.
Ooh.
This is a reality check of where you're at. I got a phone call, and I'll end on this because this really starts to piss me off if I talk about it too much.
Don't you be a hater?
It fills me with hate. I got a call one time when I was 19 years old from a friend of mine. He said, Maurice, I said, what's going on? He said, could you come over right now? Steve and I just got beat up. Friends of mine, gay, not a couple, but just friends hanging out at some bar, come out, and they got jumped. They got the shit pummeled out of them. And these are just the sweetest people you ever want to meet in your life. One of them, my friend Ruben, had a ring on that his grandfather had given him. His grandfather died. And he begged the guys not to take the ring. He said, I'll give you money, I'll give you this, we can go to my ATM, I'll give you money, whatever you want, take the car, don't take this ring. Of course they take the ring. You're 19 years old, you're trying to expand yourself in this culture and in the world, and something like this is on your doorstep. And here we are, a bunch of teenagers, sitting around consoling a couple of other teenagers, or maybe in the early 20s too. You know, what do you tell that culture of people who are constantly being that culture? And I speak specifically about that culture. It's on my mind. I do volunteer work for the AIDS Ride and for cultural awareness and stuff like that. But it's on my mind a lot these days because I'm seeing a lot of kids who are still going through this kind of hate. That was 20 fucking years ago. And the same stuff is still going on. So, before I get really angry, that's my time.
All right, Laurie. My good friend Laurie Buckley.
Hey, I'm ready. Thank you.
Sorry, yeah.
You want to do a clean intro?
No.
No, let it roll.
Oh, yeah.
You know, why is it all the minorities, the majorities? You know, I said it's white man's trick. It really is. But I said to myself, you know, hate, the culture of hate. One of my children said to me, Mom, I hate on so many levels. I go, I know you do, baby. I know you do. And I thought about that. I go, you know, hate's a funny thing. And sometimes it's a funny thing because I just hate you for doing that. I hate you for saying that to me. I hate the way they did that. I go, what is, you know, there's small hate. That's kind of like chicken shit hate, you know. Step on a little bit. And then there's kind of like, you know, larger hate. Like at Guantanamo Bay, 3 guys hanged themselves. And they call it, they have the nerve to call it, that it's like a form of war to be vertical. Vertical, fuck you, okay? You're so out of here, buddy. And I thought, how can we look at that as Americans and think that, and have the balls to call that a strategy? It just freaking pisses me off. And then, you know, I said, but look at the founding fathers and mothers. When they floated over, you know, get the hell away from that crap, you know. They're floating away from everybody telling them what to do, royalty sucking them with religion, and, you know, oh, God, it just goes on. And so I said, there has that kind of hate, it kind of worked a little bit, you know. I hate that, and I'm never going back for that ever again. You know, and I said, so it's kind of interesting, that level of hate. And then you get into the ultimate hate, the hate that costs people's lives, the hate that you pass back on to your children, and that they all chant not knowing what that is. And I said, you know, that's the part that breaks my heart. And I don't want to hate the haters. I don't want to hate them for doing that. But I do want to understand them. And I was watching Simon Rushdie on, Bill Moyers was talking about faith and reason. And, you know, if anybody knows about being hated, it's that guy. He got the big F, the fatwa, you know, oh my God, not the fatwa, yeah, oh yes, you've been fatwa'd, you know. And so, I mean, here's a guy who's saying to us about hatred and how that in order for us to be free, because I'm really realizing that perhaps hate is the last banyan of freedom. It's the last thing when you're willing to let go of that hate to be free. And so he's saying, look, you know, what I call the hallways of liberty. He says, we have to be able to argue. We got to be able to argue and not stop. It's going to continue and continue and continue until we progress and progress. And may we always argue. May we always be in a room, a living room, in all of our living rooms, and be able to argue for change. And he said, because look, when we made the country, we were on a roll. I mean, they pulled stuff from the guy with the mask and from the Whip Me, Beat Me cruise and the never going to cut in my house again and mess up my furniture without calling first. You know, they put all this cool stuff in there and thought that they had done their job. But they forgot, hello, women's right to vote. Women were going, right to vote, right to vote. Said, I will give you sex for years. That took another couple hundred years. I'm cutting you off until next farming season, you know, nothing. You know, and so, and then they didn't free the slaves because they still owned a couple. You know, that is the bitch, you know, that's really the bitch, you know. It's like the pig with the peg leg, you know, and the guy with that pig, you know, so wonder, oh, the pig saved my life, saved my children, or, you know, decorated my house, and so what about the peg leg? Well, you can't eat anything that good all at once, you know, so it's this, you know, you look at this kind of disparity that we're dealing with, and so I say to myself, maybe now that hate is a word I use for short, which means I don't have time to explain all my deep inner feelings. You know, I hate that, I hate this. But when you hate larger, you still don't have the time to really talk. And what Rushdie basically said was, in order for freedom to live, in order for it to thrive, we must be able to normally and know for sure that we're going to debate and we are going to argue continuously. So here were slaves, here were women. Well, you know, slaves got freed physically, but consciously we were still self-absorbed. And women, finally, you know, if it hadn't been for one senator who loved his mother, and she's like, please, 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 to make sure he passes the right vote, or women would have been another 20 years, to vote. So it took that arguing. It took that ability to challenge and to go, we've got to ask more questions. This doesn't feel right. Just because you said so doesn't mean I'm going to do it. I hate that stuff. And I really don't like to discuss it. I have so many emotions involved. But we have to have that, not just the tolerance, but to be able to not fear arguing, to not fear being able to stand up. And that's how you know when you're in deep shit. With the first guy that steps up, bam, it's not happening there. I'll be right back. I can take my argument over there, because that's the frightening thing, is that you're afraid to be shunned, or you're going to be judged. And to think that we have started as much crap as we have in this country because we never made old George W., either one of them, we never debated them. We never demanded that they stand up and argue in the hallway of freedom so we can hear it, so we can hear all the arguments, we can be pissed off instead of better to be than pissed on, and so that we could challenge them. And I said to myself, well, maybe that's what hate really is. It's the last banyan. We must challenge it and be willing to say, if we're really going to be free, if we're really going to take freedom as our gig and really mean it, like with the immigrants, oh no, don't let them in, put up the borders. But actually, we're hating when we really must be loving, because I'm only second generation American. My grandmas and granddaddies floated over, found their way, took the shit jobs, died of black lung disease in the mines, did all those things that people did, and many of the Irish worked far harder in America than they ever did in Ireland. And we got all these tragedies and coming in, and instead of hating them, they are wanting the freedom that we think we own. And we don't own it. It's something, if you're really lucky, you get to have, you get to trot around and do, you get to feel it, you get to taste it, but you must earn it. And you must earn it by wanting others to share it, no matter where they are. Not just yapping about it, but being willing to say, let me get you're tired, and all y'all that have been thrown out from wherever y'all came from, space, whatever, down to earth, the lizards, let them loose. Let's have a look at them. Let's get to it. And I said, so hate is just the last time and the last place to go, and that's where I'm willing to give up my hate to discuss the possibilities forever and ever.
Yeah!
Brilliant. From a culture of hate to culture of debate.
There you go. I like it. Yes, sir.
I like that too. I mean, and wow, we'll talk more on the panel. That was brilliant. My good friend set it up well for you, my friend.
Oh, man.
Mr. Rick Overton.
Great. Man, we are on fire tonight. Let's just get a big old wet blanket out and put that activity on, right? And it's over, everybody. Let's go. Come on. Here comes the Jeep. Come on. He's coming this way. Let's go. I don't hate the United States. I hate the disunited states. I hate that we're divided. Boy, this is, that's the problem. We've let our worst enemies define what we own and don't own. I have stickers on my car that say I defend the troops and support them because I do. And I don't need to say because I want them home. I don't even need that other part. I can use any symbol and mean what I want. It's a training in meaning what I want to mean again. They took our flag away, and now they don't want us to like the flag. It was supposed to be for us, and they took it with, the bully got your bike. I hate my bike now. Because his ass is on my bike. The bully ass is on my bike, so I hate my bike. That's what happens when you leave shit out. People steal it. That's freedom. That's my flag, and I want it back. And I can be Southern or whatever the hell. I want to be Southern and enlightened, and fuck that. Don't be a placist.
An originalist.
A regionalist. We're hateful folk from here. Oh my God, you let your area tell you what you are. You get a little certificate, show up and get a certificate. Okay, honey, I guess we're hateful people. Just because it says, because it's this area. We gotta hate the things hated in this area. Yeah, see that? Get kids? Okay. It's, we're getting hypnotized down. It's hate-gnosis on TV. Make it okay on TV. Do it layer after layer. We hate not catching giant things in advance, and so we have been slowly chipped away. And every now and again, there's some people that just can't be programmed. And they usually wind up in arts because we think out of the box because we weren't invited in. You know? And then from the outside, you see what a ratty looking thing that box is from the outside. Box is evil from the outside. You see, oh, they're loading the box in a truck. Where are they taking the box? You know? The people who are in the box have no idea. They're like, we're in the box. What? Hey, the box is moving. We can't get out of the box. Box. Oh yeah, speaking of Fox News. It's all about, Bill O'Reilly. I'm a hand job for your id. Not only do I reward you for not making any progress in your spiritual growth, I attack you if you do. He's like a golem factory. It should be the Orc News Network. They're just making, can't be reasoned with. Charge! One fell. He's weak. Eat him. Yeah, being president's hard work. It's hard work. Don't hate the hater. Because we have a goal, and it's my passion. No, I would never betray my country. Fuck that. He's asshole him. Oh man, drive time radio friends. I could kill a baby off the edge of a cliff in a pay-per-view special and win you back in 2 weeks. Why? Because you're hooked to the junkie. You're addicted to me because I let your lowest jerk-off monster run your day. I make it okay to be as horrible as you actually are. Because your hero's just as bad. And how can you be bad if your hero's all fucked up and evil? Well, I just want to...
Oh, heaven.
I was talking about how I love, as far as the Bible's concerned, I love the title character, not so sure about the unauthorized biography. And I had this girl, this like dressed up, hoed out, blonde Southern girl with the big hoops and everything, and looked like Britney Spears, looking up at me going like, with a giant cross with all the gold and crap on it like that. And I was thinking like, man, you gotta train someone to hate the idea of love. That's training. You have to really catch them young before logic can pop in, and tell them to hate certain things so you can just hear a shiny, angry, sweaty guy that looks a little bit like your sick, abusive dad with the squared off hair, and he tells you, he gives you commands. We're all fucking Manchurian now, I see these girls, you've been trained to hate. I said this the other night. You've been conditioned. It would not have occurred to you on your own. Because I'm talking about love and peace, but now I'm making your daddy mad. So you're defending your dad and hating a total fucking stranger for making sense. Now you got to train that. But in some cases, we're all so broke right now, you can just pay a guy to hate that much.
He's got time.
Yeah. It's just money smart. It's clever money, and that's what cynicism is. And cynicism is you hate humanity. So you can't have a cynical liberal. It cancels itself out. Liberal is save humanity. Cynic is humanity sucks. How hard are you going to work to save something that sucks? So, and it works, and that's why there's nothing more dangerous than a hateful, mean liberal. In fact, if I were on the right, and there are thousands of them, mean, bitter, uber-literate blocks of ice that just scare the fucking customers away. No wonder there's 19 of us. Who wants to be you miserable prick? Look at that. Look at me read. Oh, you didn't read this and I did. I win. Uber-braining people and stuff because, oh, God. Wow. What happened to the liberal movement? We've been gutted. Where's the sexy, cool liberals that just shrug? Remember a hippie used to kind of a guy going, hey, what's that? I don't know, man. I can't figure it out either. You want half my sandwich? See, that's what happens is they fed us, and then the Gap fed us our hippie moves, and suddenly we're all, no, I need those genes ahead of you, and then well, I'm going to be a better hippie than you. Fuck you, you know. Clever trick, don't you think? I'll admit it. I'm hooked on hate. I tried to kick it. I try, but it just feels so fucking good. Oh, I love it. Everybody gets a version of it. It's so easy. Pew, pew, pew. Pew, 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 pew. Pew, 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 pew. Weak, sick people coming at you. The zombies are attacking. Ooh, or the poor. Pew, 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 pew. They're dressed the same. Time for milk. Because I'm wholesome.
Oh, man.
That's the trick. Throw little niceties in all around it. I love me. See, I'm not a hater. I love me. Let me see a mirror. Who the fuck is that? Oh, it's me. Oh. Get that mirror out of here. That's the thing about a hater. You know, a hater is like cancer. You know, because we're all cells in a body. We're all attached, and if you hate, that's like going me. A cell can't go me, or that's the definition of cancer. You know, cancer's a cell that went me. That quickly becomes fuck you, like that, me, and then they all go, oh yeah, well fuck everything else, you know. And that's what these guys are. They're cancer. They're genius at taking stuff over right up until they just kill the host with them riding on the host. Bye bye, you too, stupid. You're natured. That's what happens when you overpopulate. Suddenly everyone gets all crazy and mean because there's too many of them. Put 10 rats in a box, they're all biting each other's nuts off. There's no food in the box, stop breeding. Nature just backed us up against ourselves. You know, we pulled a lap, our dick got so big in the quantum curved universe, we finally came back and banged ourselves. Yeah, okay. But man, Ann Coulter would be hot if she wasn't evil. Oh, and then the thing is, you know, in Christianity, there's a lot of good Christians, but there's a lot of the good Christians. You know, the ones that they don't see, they cannot see. They're not sees. They won't see that there's evil in their own camp. Now, you know, honestly, I say, look, I believe you're all doing a very good job here. You're doing nice things with your family, you do charities and benefits like that. But how come you let people in your own club go psycho like that? If this was the police force, we would have internal affairs on them, you know? Where's your IA? You check in on the crazies in your group, because now I'm starting to mistake you for them. You can't blame me for that, but clean it up. You know what? Joe Pesci was making a big fucking scene. He was beating guys up in the bar and Goodfellas, and finally the mob just took him down to be made. He gets into an empty room and goes, You know? Clean up your own mess. The mob knows how to do that. Clean your mess up. They're embarrassing you now. Anyway, the love is cool. Is a great energy to use because I believe in karma because I used to make fun of bald people.
All right, thank you, Rick. All right, we're going to have a little intermission and come back and do the panel discussion, and stay tuned. It's going to get better.
Good job, everyone.